Hello students, today let us discuss about the definition of news, and before going to the definition, let us just recall what we have studied in the previous class. So we have seen what is journalism, and we have studied that it is the business or it is the process of gathering, accessing, creating and presenting news and information to the people. The entire process is described here. It is gathering, accessing, creating and presenting the news and information to the people. So this is what we deal here, and it is distinguished by its own characteristics, just like we may be sharing information for many other purpose. We receive information from our family, friends and the society. Of course, it is the business of sharing information, but still when it comes to journalism, it is not like the general method which we follow for sharing information. Instead, it has some of the characteristics which distinguish journalism from the other process of sharing information. So that's what we have studied in the previous class, and here we have seen that when it comes to a democratic society, our society will be known to be more democratic when it tends to share more information among the public. So this is always about educating the people and informing the people about the happening. So the same process have been explained, and this process have been defined by some of the famous journalists and publishers. So that's what we are going to study today. So here we have one beautiful definition given by Joseph Pulitzer, American publisher. You know him better, right? So let's see what he says to you. So the definition goes like, put it before them briefly so they will read it. He's speaking about the content here. Clearly so they will appreciate it. Picturesquely so they will remember it, and above all accurately so they will be guided by its light. So this definition clearly speaks about the real intention of journalism. It is guiding the people. So how your information need to be presented in the published paper, or you may be sharing that information anywhere in a print or electronic or new media, but still make it sure, or make sure that it is clearly and briefly explained to the people, and it is picturesquely delineated to them so that they will be guided by that information. So it always speaks about you have to bring some change with the help of the information you are sharing to the people. So that's what the core intention here. Well, let's go with the second definition, which is very well known to you. So that's the definition given by Charles Anderson Dana, the American journalist. The definition goes like, when a dog bites a man, that is not news, but when a man bites a dog, that is news. Of course, you are very much familiar with this particular concept of journalism, because this is one of the most discussed or most famous definition which describes journalism to the people. But recently we have seen that even this definition doesn't go with the news value, because in Bangalore we have seen the stray dogs biting children, and that had become great news for the people. But still we can't call this definition outdated, because it is not about a dog and human biting. Instead, it is about one of the value of news, that is oddity. So this particular definition describes the oddity of news, or that value of oddity will attribute some of the values to that particular information, and that makes it one of the news element. So whenever comes to some unusual subject, we can define that information with the help of this particular definition. So in case it is not normal or something unusual, then that information definitely goes into the news line, and of course sometimes it becomes headline also, you know that. So that's what he has discussed here. Let's go with another definition by Kurt Loder, American journalist. And he says that, well, news is anything that's interesting, that relates to what's happening in the world and what's happening in areas of the culture that would be interest to your audience. So this is about the proximity. So whatever happens in our area, whatever happens in the society, that will be more appropriate to the readers. So they will be longing to read what's happening in my surrounding. So that's what given here. The news is anything that's interesting and relates to the happening in the world. So whatever happens, I want to know it. So this is the tendency of a reader. So that tendency or that mentality has been defined here. And let's go with another beautiful definition. This news is what somebody somewhere wants to suppress, all the rest is advertising, by Lord Northcliffe, British publisher. Of course, he says or he opines that news is something someone wants to suppress always, because you know that the value of news is truthfulness. In case it is truthful and in case it is truth, definitely it may harm someone, or somebody may be in trouble just because of that truth. So they want to suppress it. Then try to suppress that information to be shared in among the public, so that they will be in safer side. So anyhow, so that's what has been defining here. The news is what somebody somewhere wants to suppress, all the rest is advertising, even though we don't go with the second part of the definition, that rest of the news is advertising. Of course, you know that. Let us look into other definition by Lester Markle, American journalist, and it says, what you see is news, and what you know is background, and what you feel is opinion. It's beautifully defined the true value of news, that the objectivity. That means you have to see and you have to report. Especially a reporter has to follow this objectivity in his report. That's what mentioned here. If a reporter see and write, that becomes a report. In case he adds opinion, that is what you know about that particular information, maybe the background or the history, then there's a background of that information. In case he shares his opinion along with that news, that will be his own opinion. So what you see is news, nothing else. So this is what Lester Markle defines. And next definition by Phil Donna, American entertainer, and he says that to a journalist, good news is often not news at all. Of course, before going to the explanation, let's see another definition which has the same value. So no news is good news. This is by Ludovic Halvet, the French author. So here both definition says about something which is highly adopted and followed in today's journalism, that the negativity of the content. Of course, when it comes to Indian media, we have seen that the negativity is a bit more highlighted and it goes into the headline or the lead story. So when it comes to the development issues or anything which contributes to the positivity of the society, most of the times it will be neglected. Even the people tend to read the negative information and they have felt like, okay, in case it is news, that has to be a negative news. So this kind of treatment is being attributed to the information shared in the newspapers today. So that negativity is highlighted here. And next we have another definition by Philip L. Graham, American publisher. He says that the news is the first rough draft of history. The news is the first rough draft of history. So whatever you write today or whatever information you share on a public platform, in future it may become a piece of history. And of course we have seen in most of the happenings, the travelogues of the foreign travelers has become the part of history today. The same even the news whatever been publishing today may become a part of history in future. So it speaks about the accuracy and truthfulness here. So that information that you write today need to be very truthful, so that even in future it will be taken as a reference point to some of the issues later. So you have to follow this particular definition before writing something for the newspaper. And we have another definition by Gloria Borger, the American journalist, and the definition goes like, for most folks no news is good news, and for the press, good news is not news. Again, we just discussed about this kind of treatment to the news in present day medias. Altogether, all these definitions which are based on some of the news values speaks about the exact nature of news. So, let us conclude with this definition part today. In next class, we shall move to the next topic. Thank you.